Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. How you doing this week, Chip? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Eric, and happy 2024 to everybody out there doing great. We are looking at a lovely day. As I think you folks know that I work out of my home office, and there's a big window that I'm looking into the woods. And we had a snowstorm this weekend, and it was prefaced by the fact that last winter was basically non-existent for snow. This was the first projected 6 inches plus snowstorm in 700 days, which is 2 years. And deck, which doesn't get a whole lot of sunshine. I'm looking at my bench there, which is a fair measure. I think I got pretty close to a foot in the back, and then it's probably at least the 8 inches to 10 inches in the front. And obviously today there's not a cloud in the sky. It just looked beautiful out there. So it's I like summer better, but it's a beautiful winter wonderland out there.
There you go. Yeah, I'm a little further south than you, so we didn't get anything like that. I got maybe 2.5 inches, which I'll be honest is more than enough for me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I'm thankful for a snowplow for the driveway, but it was definitely a workout on the walks, and I do shovel my deck because I grill all year. So there you go.
There you go. Yes. Nothing's going to keep us between us and our grills. Yeah. Well, yeah, as everybody knows, this is the Success Showcase, and what we do on this podcast is we talk about the tips and techniques of how you can succeed in your business, your career, and your life. And we tell stories from our guests about things they've overcome and how they've succeeded in their businesses and lives. But today we're going to take a step back a little bit and actually answer a question that I get a lot from coaching clients, which is, well, how do you define success? And we've said numerous times on this podcast that success is very individual. You need to figure out what success looks like to you. But we do in Modern Observer Group's Biznetics program have a process to help you define what success means to you. And that's what we're going to take you through today so that you get a better feel of how you can figure out what your goals should be and what you're aiming for to be successful. And it starts with defining the categories that are important to you. You know, saying you want to be a success in, everything in your life is overwhelming. So you need to break it down. What are the categories that matter to you? And some of the categories you can include are relationships, business and career, financial health, physical health, mental health, spirituality, personal growth, recreation and hobbies. And this is not a comprehensive list. You can add as many different categories or as few categories as you feel are appropriate to you. Not everybody has something that fits into every category. So again, you need to personalize it. But those are a few of the categories that you should start to look at. So Chip, I'm going to toss it out to you. What categories do you feel are important for your life?
Well, first of all, before we get into this, that's a great list that you gave to everybody out there. And hopefully you're taking notes here, or you can just email Eric at the end to get that list. But the big thing is he has a list of a few different things, and a lot of people just wonder where to start. And you got to start somewhere. And so I take a look at all these different things. And this is a list of things you can look at. I call it kind of like a teaser list and so on and so forth, where you can check it off, because basically the next thing that you have there is, rank your level of satisfaction with the areas of your life that you want to work on and so on and so forth. And basically our approach and my approach definitely is the most important thing is to work towards what's your why. And my why, obviously, is to spread positivity, make people aware that positivity is a choice. And if you use that to respond to every event in your life, positive things are going to happen to you. And so taking a look at the materials that I teach, I mean, they're basically the same because that's really what the message is. And I talk about why where we're at, what reality really is, really simplifying things. But this year is 2024. And 4 years ago, we had a wild and crazy election year, and we're going into the same thing this year. And everybody has a platform. You have political platforms, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives. You have religious platforms, nationality platforms. Everybody's got their own thing. And my theme for 2024 and moving beyond, which is a platform that if you put above all others and you use that when facing people with different platforms, will work for everything, is plain and simple kindness. Kindness. What that is, it's seeing other people's point of view, where they're at, and instead of immediately jumping to criticize and to judge and complain and point out wrongs and so on and so forth, take a deep breath and see if you can collaborate. Now, how many times has the government at the last second said, okay, we'll pass this budget to get things going and so on and so forth because the gun was to their head? Think of if they were trying to collaborate from the start instead of saying this guy's saying this thing and this guy's saying that thing, and unless you do this, unless you do that, when there's 300 million people in this country that are saying, hey, look, just get this done. You're acting like a bunch of kids. In fact, you're acting younger than some of our kids that are out there. So my main thing this year is just putting kindness above everything. And obviously I'm working on that on myself because I'm not perfect, but I want to be kind, starting with the person in the mirror. As you folks out there know, I've been working on a book for about 7 or 8 years, and the materials are the same, and I have it in about 7 or 8 different ways. And that's something that I really want to perfect this year by using this approach. So that's really at the top of my list. And looking down here, obviously, spirituality, personal growth is really, really important. I'm definitely into recreation. I'm at the point in time where my wife and I and several of our traveling friends have booked one of our trips that we've taken around the world for a while, different places. For us, it's going to be the first time since before COVID. And at the end of June, we are heading to the south of France, to Provence in that area with 4 other couples. And a funny thing is, out of 3 out of the 4 couples there, and then myself, has somebody that's turning 70 this year. So this is like the senior brigade hitting the beach. We're very much looking forward to that. And that's one of the things that you should put in there. Recreation is the last thing that you talked about, but it's so, so important. That includes vacations and just planning things ahead and so on and so forth. If you always have something to look forward to, and obviously with your process says take a time out to work on yourself and to do something for yourself too and celebrate things, it's so important. So what is your why? And that personal satisfaction, I'm talking from the heart, not success and money and that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's going to come if you're doing what you love to do and you do it well. To me, that's the most important thing. So here I am, just giving my whole course and getting the word out to start the year, and I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah, you bring up an important point. The categories that I listed, they're not in any particular order. So for some people, personal growth and recreation may be most important. For others, relationships and physical health may be most important. They're just categories. They're not, put in any particular order of importance. The importance level is really up to you. And something that you touched on that I've come across a lot lately. Most of our listeners know that I read a lot, generally between 70 and 100 books every year. And for the last part of last year, going into this year, I did a lot of reading on spirituality, on Kabbalah, on quantum physics, on Asian philosophy. And one of the things that I found that connects all of that is the fact that we all have to treat things like they are interconnected. And where kindness tends to fall by the wayside is when you look at people and look at events and think, well, that's different. I can't identify with that. I can't agree with that. When you take the step back and think of everybody as being interconnected, no matter what their opinion is, all the events are interconnected, and you start to look for ways to raise all the boats. A rising tide raises all boats. When you look for those commonalities rather than those differences, the kindness is a lot easier. It becomes so much more natural. So that's something that people should keep in mind, especially with the kindness platform that Chip is talking about. But so getting back to how you define what your success is going to look like. Once you pick the categories that you're going to measure, well, that's the first thing, is you need a baseline metric. So for each category, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all satisfied and 10 being extremely happy, rate your level of satisfaction in each of those categories. Now, quite frankly, if you're starting out and you're putting a 9 or a 10 in a particular category, you're already successful there. Keep doing what you're doing, because obviously you're happy with that. And that is really the key, is what is making you happy. Success can really be defined by your own well-being. If there's a category that keeps you up at night, if you're worried about things in that category, then that's where you need to focus your work to get better at. For most people, it's defining finances, it's defining relationships. Those tend to be the ones that people are least satisfied with where they are. So start with that baseline and figure out which of these categories you're not satisfied with. And that's where you need to put the work in. If you've got categories, again, that you're rating a 9 or a 10, great. You've done a fantastic job. You are successful in that category. So, but once you rank it, once you figure it out, now you need to examine why you came up with that ranking. What is it in that category that makes you happy or unhappy about where you're standing? Now, I go back to finances because it's a very easy metric to examine. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're struggling, if you don't have enough money, if an emergency comes up, those are reasons to be unsatisfied. If, however, moving categories to your physical health, if you're overweight, if you're out of shape, if you're having illnesses a lot, those are reasons to be unsatisfied. But you need to figure out why you ranked each category the way you did. And not just why you're unsatisfied, but why you're happy. Relationships. Well, I've had a successful marriage for 27 years. I've got 2 great kids. I've got, loads of friends that I can call on to spend time with, or to, if I need something, they're there for me. These are reasons in a relationship category to be satisfied, to consider yourself successful. So figure out what it is that made you rank the categories the way you did.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously the categories that you listed, if you have some degree of satisfaction in what you're looking to do with all of those, it's a really nice, well-rounded life that you got going for yourself. One of the things that I would caution people about, and again, it just goes back to what we teach all the time, is with this kindness platform, start with the person in the mirror, which means your reason for finances and business and career and so on and so forth should not be to keep up with the neighbors and the Joneses and what other classmates and so on and so forth are doing. It's we as humankind invented competition. We're the ones that invented right and wrong. We're the ones that invented all that kind of stuff. Just keep that in mind. But you talked about being interconnected. We all came from the same creation, and whether you're religious or not, whether you believe in a God or not, whatever, we all came from good, and none of us was born evil. And if you just close your eyes, and I know I mentioned this before, and spend the whole day just not seeing what anybody looks like, or knowing what anybody does and just trying to react with people with kindness, it goes a long way. So start with kindness to the person in the mirror and realize that no matter what you think about yourself, which you are your own worst enemy. I've used the courtroom scene a lot where you're the judge and you're the jury, you're the accused, and everybody else is in their own courtrooms too, doing the same thing. So forget about worrying about yourself because nobody else does. It's just you. So work on yourself first. The personal development thing is, to me, is a top thing to guide kind of everything else. That is really, really important to have that positive mindset to start working on the kindness to get things going. So, but once you have that going for yourself and a positive mindset and realizing that you can do that, then it's time. We've talked about SMART goals a whole lot, and just start writing down the goals that you have, chunk them down to little bits and pieces, time them out and work on them, celebrate them when you get them accomplished, and you're going to find yourself doing amazing things item by item in Eric's list.
Absolutely. That's something, once you've figured out what you're happy about and what you're not happy about, that's where you go about and setting your goals. And as Chip has said, don't let competition enter into this. This is not about, well, my neighbor is running a marathon, I should be able to do that. Do you really have any interest in running a marathon? I've got several friends that run Ironman triathlons. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is running a marathon, biking an inordinate, I don't remember the exact length, and swimming. Now, in terms of the physical health category, I have dealt with illnesses most of my life. And right now I have them under control, and I am very happy with my physical health category. Can I run an Ironman triathlon? Probably not. Do I want to run an Ironman triathlon? No, I have no interest in running an Ironman triathlon. So I'm not gauging my physical health category based on what my friends are doing.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to that, we have good friends that I question their mental health. I'm just kidding. But it's yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. Everybody is different. And again, your why has to be something that's beyond you and beyond competition. What it's got to be for is the betterment of mankind some way. What you're doing is you're just giving back from your own talents that God gave you to do good. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. It can be through your profession. It can be just through the way you work with people, act with people, and so on. It's so important. Part of kindness. We just got past the Christmas holiday, and I like the old Burl Live song, "Have a Holly Jolly Christmas." And my favorite line is, "Say hello to friends you know and everyone you meet." Maybe uncomfortable up front, but when I'm walking, I'm always waving to people. I'm always saying hi to people in the grocery store who serve me and this and that, whatever. And people just know me as being like that. Is it uncomfortable at first? Maybe a little bit. Are people going to turn you off? Maybe. They may be walking away saying, wow, this person's got something going for them. You'll never know. But if you can make that part of you, that is part of your own personal growth. And so if you can just train yourself a little bit doing that, by the way, when you start doing that, you're going to see people reacting positively to the way that you're doing it. Your self-esteem is going to go up. And it's not because that's the way you want it to be. It's just the way things happen. Kindness begets kindness.
Exactly. And, again, we're talking about defining success. You're defining success for yourself. You're not defining success for somebody else, and nobody else can define it for you. It's what makes you happy, what makes you satisfied. Again, that's why you need to take a look at all the different categories, figure out the different parts of your life, evaluate what you've done so far, and then set the goals to get you where you want to be. If you're ranking a category low, you need to figure out what it is that will make you rank that high. In terms of mental health, are you constantly dealing with stress? Now, mental health is a complicated category because it can affect almost every other category and vice versa. So you need to look at it and say, well, it's my stress level is way too high. I have to lower the stress level. Well, what is it that's causing that stress? You need to look at things very concretely and figure out, okay, this is what's stressing me out. What's stressing me out is I don't have enough money to pay the bills every month. So that brings in the finance category. And very often you'll find that your goals for categories will overlap. Because even though we're breaking these down into categories to make it simpler to define, life is not siloed. Everything you do is going to affect everything else. If you're not happy with your physical health and you start dieting, you start putting in a workout program, and you start feeling better, you're going to notice that that is going to affect your mental health. As you get more endorphins going, as you're in better health, your stress levels will go down, your mental health will improve. That in turn can help your relationships, can help your success at work. So again, even though we're breaking them down into categories to help figure out what I need to do to be successful, your goals are going to be interconnected. The categories are all going to affect each other.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
So that you should keep that in mind when you're putting these goals together, that they're not isolated. They're all going to help raise your rankings in the other categories as well as the one you're focusing on.
Yeah, kind of the way I looked at it. Now that I've looked at this list again, to me, the most important ones, which are interrelated, are relationships, because obviously nobody can do this alone. And spirituality and personal growth. Spirituality, I mean, just appreciation of yourself. I'm not talking about going to church every day or anything like that, but just spirituality and personal growth are really, really important. And then obviously physical health and mental health, they are related to that too, as is recreation. And the two that really drive those and facilitate everything else and give you the resources to do that financially are your business and career and finances. That's the way that I take a look at these things. And it's so important to be working on those two, but it's so important to have a really, really nice mix of the other 7 or 8 that you have listed there. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. You have the personal side of things, and the thing that facilitates that all, obviously, is the finances, business and career and whatever, which just gives you the resources to be able to do a lot of things that you want to do. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with making money and that kind of thing, but if that is the primary goal, then everything else about you, as far as your personal growth and relationships and everything else and so on and so forth, they're going to take second base as far as that stuff goes, and you are not going to have a happy life.
Exactly. You need to be able to find what's going to make you successful in various categories, not just one. And again, as you just illustrated, they are all interconnected. And I do want to address something with spirituality, because a lot of folks, when they see this process, they go, well, spirituality, that's, not important. Spirituality is not about being religious. It has nothing to do with what religion you are. It's about how you relate to spirit. So you've probably heard people say, well, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And there's a lot of people that make fun of that, but there's a lot of truth to that. My spirituality, yes, I have my religion, but I also have the part of me that wants to explore spirituality. As I said, over the past several months, I read numerous books on Kabbalah, on Asian philosophy, on Buddhism. That's all going towards that category of spirituality, even though it's not my particular religion. And quite frankly, when it comes to spirituality, from my own point of view, I actually include my studies of quantum physics in there because what you learn about quantum physics, you learn a lot that ties into spirituality and oneness. So don't think you have to be a religious zealot to be spiritual. You don't have to go to church or temple every week, to consider yourself spiritual. For that category, you need to define what it means to you. And that's, again, something you have to do with each of these categories is define what they mean to you. Nobody else can tell you what they mean. It's all about how you're relating to yourself, how you view success. Somebody else can give you definitions of all of these categories. But if those definitions don't ring true to you, no matter what goal you set, you can achieve their version of success. You may not feel successful. You may not feel happy because it's not your definition.
Yeah, and if you just latch on to really the simplicity of the different things. I mean, our biggest problem in life in a lot of ways is that we overcomplicate things. We always look at all the pros and cons for a lot of different things. And if you really ask yourself while you're going through this, is it really worth going through this exercise? What good is it doing me? I mean, spirituality, for instance, I mean, it has a lot of different meanings. And again, remember, we as human beings created words and phrases, and it's different in different countries and so on and so forth. And people look at different things in different ways. We've used examples of this a whole lot. I look at spirituality very simple as getting back to our source. We mentioned interconnectedness. We all came from the same thing. And it's just getting back to that. And really, to me, spirituality is just appreciating that in everybody and everything. I mean, when I look out into the yard here, I look at the snow, I'm looking at the trees and the woods and all that. I mean, they all are part of creation. And so if you look at things that way, you don't have to go out and read a Bible or anything like that to come up with that. Although a lot of that is referenced in that and whatever religion is teaching out there, they all get back to that source somehow of interconnectivity. So if you look at it that way, that's the most important thing. And I do recommend if you get into some type of practice and so on and so forth, to work on that. And I'm not talking about that it has to be organized, but if you get into some type of a practice to go back to that every day, all the time, that's really where the kindness comes from.
Absolutely. And, you said that, people have created words. That's something everyone needs to remember is that, definitions change over time. And all it made me think of is an exchange from the movie Avengers Infinity War. What Thor says, we have to go to Niavalier. And one of the other characters goes, that's a made up word. And Thor says, all words are made up. And it's true. All words are made up. So you have to figure out when you're talking about spirit, what it means to you. And when you look at these categories and when you look at success, it's all about what it means to you. Never mind what somebody else's made up definition is. You need to create your own. So we are coming up on the end of our time here. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for our listeners this week?
We covered a lot of things, but it really, really gets back to our interconnectedness. It gets back to our source, whatever you want to call that. And it all starts there. And again, it starts in the mirror. So step number one for the new year, look in the mirror, smile, look at yourself, realize the wonderful person, the talented person in there, and take a look at these different things, these categories and so on and so forth, and really, really scour yourself and take time to write these different things down. Take the look at the list, cross things off, add things, but just get working on it. And once you come up with the goals that you have for these different things, time them out, work on them, celebrate when you accomplish that. But start with that person in the mirror and look in that person in the mirror, say, Happy New Year. I am created, source. There's a lot of good in me. I have a lot to offer, and I'm going to do that for the good of everybody that's out there. And just make it happen. Just make it happen. You can.
I love that. Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is don't just make New Year's resolutions, don't just pick goals willy nilly. Figure out what is going to make you feel successful and do it holistically. Think about all the different parts of your life. What does it mean to be a success in each of those parts? Then create those goals and move forward. You can achieve them, but it's about what's going to make you feel successful. It's not about competition. And that's really the key is that you're not in competition with everybody. The only person you need to compete with to be better than is the person you were yesterday. And every day get a little bit better. And that's what success can be. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.